Hello everyone, my name is Deli, and today I was asked on Twitter to speak a little bit about leaks in the gaming industry and how that affects us as developers. Well, we have a few scenarios that occur whenever a leak happens, which I'll go over, so please keep in mind that leaks happen at all stages of game development, and depending on the IP, stage of development, publisher, and studio working on the project, leaks can have completely different effects on a project. Let's start from the beginning. So imagine you're spending money for promoting a game, and then some person decides to leak it early to the public for their own benefit. And a lot of marketing money just went down the drain and or has made a bunch of dozens of hours of work less effective or honestly moot thanks to the leaker. Additionally, leaking stuff means that the company is also having a serious security issue, which this is seen no different as having a spy work for you. And this also could adversely mean that the company is less trusted and can drive away any potential investors since they know that your company can't even keep a secret. Here are a few other situations that arise when leaks happen, and these are varying in degrees of detrimentalness, if that's even a word, to the company. So number one, domain registration. So maybe we haven't fully completed our domain purchase yet, so we do not want to tip people off on what we're making, and if that comes out, then that opens us up to being squatted, or we have to change the name of the game entirely. Number two, surprise. Maybe there is a mechanic or something that we're trying to save for a reveal closer to the release. For example, like Cappy in Mario Odyssey wasn't shown until the second trailer of the game. And number three, maybe there are multiple IPs happening at the same time, and maybe this leak comes around the time that we have another project releasing. So instead of the consumer focusing on, Cool RPG 9, they're too busy chatting on social media about the leak regarding, Wombat battle mechanics of Wombat Hero 4 we have coming out 2 or 3 years down the road. So now the limelight has to be semi-shared, and or potentially a game could be swept under the rug entirely if they're, more worried about the bigger IP. Now, it is demoralizing when leaks happen on projects that are farther along. It feels like you've been kind of robbed of an experience you spent weeks or months preparing for. This is usually notorious around the time that E3 is happening, and around that time leaks are abundant and people are enjoying reveals that may take center stage over other games. This usually has a bigger effect on smaller games as they're being dwarfed by bigger, more anticipated reveals. Personally, as a game developer, we'd rather people wait for the moment we reveal things so gamers can really enjoy what we've been working on, and we can enjoy sharing the experience with everyone at the same time on our own terms as creators. We want to give the most accurate look to a product, and showing leaked footage of older builds or footage that isn't quite polished yet gives really unrealistic expectations for games, and it also could harm the overall reveal if there's enough negative press surrounding it. I also think it's kind of disrespectful and unprofessional, especially when things are leaked by colleagues, former colleagues, partners, former partners, or even journalists. The worst being that journalists have signed multiple NDAs in their careers, and usually they know exactly how things work and how sensitive information is. There are even kind of crazy, drastic occasions where potential partnerships could literally be ruined due to a leak if they're waiting for last-minute approvals, signings, or licensing. Usually, though, AAA companies have material prepared for a project when it hits a certain stage for when things leak, with multiple degrees of severity along with relevant assets and communication strategies. So something like Naughty Dog, when something happened recently with Naughty Dog, I'm sure that they had assets and blog posts and communication strategies set up and available and ready to go at a moment's notice, or they can kind of corral together fairly quickly later in the evening. And this is something that we saw them do just this week. Leaks can also damage the internal company culture, causing information not to be openly shared with the company as it used to be. It could also mean that leaks made out to the public means that upper management can't really give employees honest transparency, because anything that they say could potentially be leaked or taken out of context and or sound really, really bad to the public. As a result, internal company communication could potentially become very PR-like, which ultimately ends up hurting the employee because it kind of doesn't really give them an honest understanding of what's actually going on in the company or what's actually happening on the project, what's happening on the floor versus what's happening upstairs. Decisions aren't communicated properly. Things are going to start to feel disjointed. Conversely, you can spend your job in deep fear of leaks as they can derail much of what you're doing. So at the most basic level, it can make it seem like the publisher, the studio, the IP owner, the platform holder, or other stakeholders are not really reading from the same sheet as the studio or the publisher. publisher, which makes ultimately everybody look like an idiot. Other times, it forces your hand to show you things that aren't simply ready yet. And so when we have to show people things that aren't necessarily ready, a lot of the people inside the studio are going to have to scramble last minute to make things work. This may mean taking work home, people working on vacation, and or other people working elsewhere, working overtime or crunching or other things like that to be able to make sure that we kind of fix the issue at hand. Working on unannounced games is always difficult, and especially it was a very difficult time for me because these are often times where information is kept within very, very small circles of knowledge internally, and code names, delicate discussions, and a lot of second guessing happens. And every single time you say something, there is a level of ambient stress that comes along with that, because when something doesn't even have a name on it, or potentially it's a sequel nobody wants out in the public is being worked on, it's a very stressful environment having to look over your shoulder every minute in order to keep your job security. Personally, I have mixed feelings about how secretive the games industry can be, but with a surrounding fan culture that can, well, not can, that will dissect every element of everything that gets out there, which can both be very good and very bad, all public exposure becomes risk-laden to an extent. So something becoming news before the organization involved is ready to share it publicly, it's always going to end up extremely messy. Thanks everybody for watching. I hope you guys learned something today, and please leave a comment if you want to chime in on the conversation or the topic that I talked about today. Again, thanks for watching. My name is Deli, and I'll catch you guys next time.